March 26, 2024. 1:28 a.m. Baltimore, Maryland. A massive cargo ship loses power. It drifts. And then, in under 60 seconds, one of America's most iconic bridges disappears into the water below. 8 construction workers. Gone. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, fully inspected, fully up to code, just collapsed. But here's the part that should keep you up at night. That bridge? It was actually one of the safer ones. Right now, as you watch this video, there are 42,000 bridges across the United States that are in worse condition than the Key Bridge was that night. And 168 million Americans cross them. Every single day. Welcome to Cities Explained. And today, we need to talk about the bridge crisis that the government doesn't want you to panic about. Let's start with the numbers, because they are absolutely staggering. The United States has over 623,000 bridges. That sounds impressive, right? The richest country in the world, hundreds of thousands of bridges. But here's the loophole nobody talks about. Nearly 42% of all U.S. bridges are over 50 years old. And here's the thing. Engineers designed most of these bridges with a lifespan of just 50 years. That's right. The bridges your grandparents drove over when they were young, you're still driving over them today. And the American Society of Civil Engineers, the people who literally grade infrastructure for a living, gave America's bridges a C grade in their 2025 report card. Not an A. Not even a B. A C. They estimate the repair backlog alone is $125 billion. But the government keeps saying, don't worry. These bridges are structurally deficient, but not necessarily unsafe. Structurally deficient, but not unsafe. Think about that phrase for a second. That's like a doctor telling you, your heart is failing, but you're not necessarily going to die today. Would you feel safe? Here's where it gets really dark, and this is the loophole at the heart of this entire crisis. In America, bridges are inspected every 2 years. Sounds reasonable, but the inspection system itself is broken. When inspectors assess a bridge, they rate it on a scale. If a bridge scores below a certain threshold, it gets labeled structurally deficient. That label sounds alarming, but here's what it actually means in practice. The bridge stays open. Traffic keeps flowing. Politicians point to the inspection as proof the system is working, and nothing gets fixed. This happened with the I-35W bridge in Minneapolis. For 17 years, from 1990 all the way to 2007, federal inspectors flagged it as structurally deficient. 17 years of reports, 17 years of warnings. And on August 1, 2007, at 6:05 p.m. during rush hour, the bridge collapsed into the Mississippi River. 13 people died. 145 were injured. And after the tragedy, do you know what the government did? They inspected more bridges and found the problem was everywhere. The system isn't designed to fix bridges, it's designed to document their decline. So why aren't these bridges getting fixed? This is America, the wealthiest nation in history. We spend trillions on defense, on technology, on everything. Why are we letting our bridges rot? The answer is ugly. And it comes down to how America funds infrastructure. Most bridge funding comes from the Highway Trust Fund, which is powered by gas taxes. The federal gas tax is 18.4 cents per gallon. That sounds fine, except it hasn't been raised since 1993. Think about that. 1993. The year Jurassic Park came out. The year the internet was brand new. That's the last time America raised the tax that funds its bridges. In the meantime, inflation has cut the real value of that tax nearly in half. Cars have become more fuel efficient, meaning people buy less gas. And the bridges keep aging. The result? A funding shortfall of $3.7 trillion over the next 10 years for all U.S. infrastructure. $3.7 trillion. That's more than the entire GDP of Germany. And here's the political loophole. Fixing bridges doesn't win elections. Cutting ribbons on new projects does. So politicians build new things and let old things crumble, because voters notice new highways. They don't notice the slow decay of a 50-year-old bridge until it falls. So which bridges should you actually be worried about? According to federal data, some of the worst concentrations of failing bridges are in states like Pennsylvania, Iowa, Oklahoma, and Mississippi. In Pennsylvania alone, more than 3,200 bridges are in poor condition. But it's not just rural backroads. Some of the most at-risk bridges carry tens of thousands of vehicles per day through major cities. And there's a new threat that the original bridge engineers never planned for: climate change. When these bridges were built in the 1960s and 70s, engineers designed them based on historical weather data. They calculated how much flooding, how much heat expansion, how much freeze-thaw cycling a bridge would experience. But climate patterns have shifted. We now get floods that break 100-year records, heat waves that cause bridge decks to buckle, freeze-thaw cycles that crack concrete faster than ever before. A bridge that was built to last 50 years under normal conditions, it might only last 35 under current conditions. And almost 21,000 U.S. bridges are at risk of structural damage from extreme weather events alone: storms, floods, earthquakes. The bridges were built for a world that no longer exists. Let's look at what the collapse of just one bridge actually costs. Because people think this is just a safety issue. It's not. It's an economic catastrophe. When the Francis Scott Key Bridge fell in Baltimore, it didn't just kill 8 people. It shut down one of the busiest ports on the East Coast. Ships were rerouted. Shipping costs spiked. Maryland alone was losing an estimated $15 million every single day the port was closed. The rebuilding of that bridge isn't expected to finish until 2028. One bridge. 4 years of recovery. Billions in damage. Now multiply that across 42,000 structurally deficient bridges. Many in cities, many on major highways, and you start to understand why the American Society of Civil Engineers says that failing to fix infrastructure could cost the U.S. economy $10 trillion and 3 million jobs by 2039. We're not just talking about bridges, we're talking about the economic foundation of the entire country. So here's where we are. America has 623,000 bridges. Over 42,000 are in poor condition. Nearly half are older than their designed lifespan. The inspection system catches problems but rarely fixes them. The funding system is stuck in 1993. And climate change is accelerating the decay faster than anyone predicted. The richest country in the world is quite literally driving its people over crumbling infrastructure and calling it safe because it hasn't fallen yet. The Francis Scott Key Bridge was fully up to code the night it collapsed. So I'll leave you with this question, and I genuinely want to know your answer in the comments below. How many bridges have to fall before America finally decides to fix them? If this video opened your eyes, share it. Because the more people understand this crisis, the harder it becomes for governments to ignore it. And if you want to see more hidden infrastructure disasters, the problems hiding in plain sight, subscribe to Cities Explained. Because we're just getting started.